video all about turning your individual Unit 3 discussion board, where we look at topic, audience, and purpose, into your Unit 3 individual project. So I have the template here, and what I've done is pasted in the questions for the Unit 3 discussion board, and then I've used my sample response, and I'm going to take this information and put it into our template. So what I want you to take away from this is that most of what you already have in your discussion board will go into that template and fill out at least half of it. And then there may be things that are in your Unit 2 discussion board that you can also paste in here. And then that leaves us with just a little bit to work on. So even if you just take what's in your discussion board and you put it into the template and you leave some red spaces, some empty spots, you are totally doing the assignment, and I can help you out in filling those out. So do whichever steps you have and turn in something. Anything is better than nothing, and something helps me help you. So here I have the questions: topic, audience, and purpose, and then I've written 3 short, not really paragraphs, especially that middle one, but each little section covers one of them. So I have this top one about topic, the second one about audience, and the third about purpose. So when I go down here to look at the template for writing my individual project, which is basically an outline. So this is one way to write an outline. The outline could look any number of ways, so don't let that stop you either. If you have an idea on how you like to do outlines, go for it. That's awesome. These are starting points to help you consider ideas, and that's our main points. Okay, so first off, we talk about what are 1 to 2 ideas for how you can engage your audience. And I don't necessarily have that because I'm looking at topic. I am looking at audience, so there may be a clue there in what I want to do. But remember, what I'm doing first is putting in information. I'm doing some copy pasting. So I'm going to get back to that one because I definitely can use what I've said about audience to help me with that starting point. Then I have, what is the main point or lesson of your story? So this could be found in a couple of spots, but when I look at what I have written, I'm going to look at my purpose, and I think there's probably a main point or a lesson there. So what if we go ahead and take this idea right in the middle of purpose? It says, I can't change my red nose. It's part of my life and I was born with it, but I can be my best self. And being our best self is what my little story here is about. We'll have to see if you can recognize it in a minute for who I'm writing about. I'm channeling a fictional character. I think you already guessed it if you looked at any of the parts. Okay, so next we have our body paragraphs. Also, remember, I could change this up. I could do whatever I want with it. I'm just taking some of these ideas and putting them in place, and it'll give me some structure to start with, and it reuses and adapts the work I'm already doing. So it's not brand new. So body paragraphs, where you share the story of a great success or failure. What does your audience need to understand about you or this situation? What if we go look at some of our topic info? Here we talk about how this character, I was born with this. People were really hurtful to me about it, and all of that was really difficult. So what if that is sort of what our audience needs to know? They need to know that the failure part wasn't really a failure on our part. It was just existing, and that led to these really difficult spaces. Okay, so next, what are the key events that make up the story? Not all of these are here yet, but we could definitely say something like, from this last one, what if we take this last little bit here? We know we're going to end with this one that we have. By being my best self, I helped my boss make the world the best possible place. I saved Christmas. So we know that's going to be our last one. So that's going to be our last point, and we're not really sure where we're going to start. We could start chronologically with being born, sort of like growing up. We have a couple ideas, right? So we'll play with that as we go forward. Next, because remember, we're plugging in things that we already have. So here in our conclusion, what was the lesson you learned from this experience? So let's go back up here. I think the lesson that we learned could be, it could be just a copy and paste of this as well. We're looking at multiple ways to say it. I can't change my red nose, but I can be my best self. But what if we take what we wanted to share with our audience? Does that look good? Because it's about being pressured to be something different than who they were born to be. So those ideas could be part of it. Actually, let me take that out. I think we should do this. We're going to put it right here. That's a better spot. And this is what I want you to do too. As I go through this, I'm thinking, oh, where would that go? Oh, do I like that? Oh, do I like that? And then I move it around. I change it up. So I want to go back to that one. What was the lesson we learned from this experience? What if we take that first part to help others see that they should focus on being their best selves? So just by looking at what we've written, we filled out a lot of our work here. And now we can go back in and start to see, well, what other details do we want to explore? So let's start here with how to engage our audience. This is that hook idea. What do we like to read? What do we like to see as a starting point? What draws us into a story? So there's so many ideas. There's so many possibilities. But what about this? We could start with the sad part. What makes the situation difficult and painful? So we could include this section here that everyone made fun of me and that was really hurtful. So we could include that kind of stuff as a starter. That doesn't have to be exactly what we start with, but this would be like sort of a supporting point to that, right? It's again from what we've written, but we're looking at it sort of overall and saying like, what are we saying with that and what can we do with it? But we could also start with the success. So I helped my boss save Christmas. My bright red nose made all the difference. So what he was born with. So those are two ideas. We could also look at maybe a quote that sort of sums up these ideas. We could look at setting the sort of cast of characters. So setting like who is in this story that we're going to focus on, where are they, why does this attribute matter? So those are 4 ideas already. Some of them are straight from what we've been working on and others that we are sort of thinking of and playing with. And then we could pick whichever one we want. We're not going to include all 4. So now let's go down to here. What are the key events that make up the story? Again, that's going to kind of depend on how we want to tackle it. So I'm thinking, just spitballing, remember you're playing with these ideas. And again, you can change it as you head to the next part. So we could talk about the being born part. And the red nose being a shock to everyone because no one else in my family has one. So I'm an outlier there and they didn't know what to do with me and if I was okay. And then the growing up part. So not being part of the group, being ostracized. Let's see if I can spell that. Not getting to play in all the games with everyone else. And then choosing to accept myself for who I am. And then I could decide there, like, do I want to talk about some of my adventures in that? And then another part of that is, what if there are like 4 things that come to mind? Well, I could pick one. So, for instance, I may want to talk about my friend the dentist, and how his pursuit of his passion helped me realize that I too have a place. So, and I can pick. Again, I get to decide sort of where that's going to go. And by being my best self, and then think about some other parts of that, like not holding a grudge against everyone who was ridiculing me. Choosing to think of the bigger picture. And then, of course, back to this idea. Like, I have multiples, right? So I have 4. I could talk about my friend, the snow the abominable snowman. I could talk about the lumberjack. Like, I have all of these options and ideas for what I want to include in here. I've given 4, but I could expand or contract any of these. I could see what parts I really want to explore, what sort of grows as I write. A lot of times I take something like this, and as I start to write, I'll say, oh, that's just not going anywhere. And then that is just expanding and growing, and I'm really loving what I'm doing with it. So I play with all those pieces. And then here we have this final possibility that we add something to the audience, to what we want them to know, but what we want them to do now. But maybe that one works. Or maybe we share how we want them to do this. Maybe we have a step we want them to take. So those are some ideas. I hope you can see how much it all grows and expands with everything that you already have in your discussion board. You are just taking those ideas and saying, well, where could they fit in here? And how could I expand them? How could some details really help everyone see my experience?